This time, we'll take a look at the errors encountered while using Provider. The first is a Provider not found exception. You have seen this error before, so let's just review it briefly. The first error isn't really an error at all. It is just saying that a new provider was added, but a hard restart was not performed. So it's a problem that can be solved by doing a hard restart. The second error is related to routes, and we have already seen how to deal with these errors in Provider Access. The third error is that you used the wrong build context, and we have already addressed this error in the Provider Overview 09 and Provider Overview 10 apps. So we have actually learned everything about Provider not found exception already. In addition to this, there are various errors you can encounter when using the Provider. Let's take a look at these errors through example. Create a Provider Overview 16 app. Install the Provider package in the pubspec.yaml file and comment out the include line of the analysis options.yaml file as before, so that the default renting rule will not be applied. The example is not complicated, and I will be using counter for the example. I chose it for the example because it can sufficiently show various error cases. I create a counter change notifier class in the counter.dot file in the providers folder, which is a very familiar code. And I made a pages folder and made 3 pages. Their names are counterpage.dart, handle dialog page.dart, navigate page.dart. The main page is composed of buttons that move to each page. Wrap material app with a count type change notifier provider. The title is add post frame callback, named after the name of the function that will be used intensively in the app, and the debug banner is set as hidden. Buttons are placed inside the list view, and as you can see, the list view's shrink wrap property is set to true. As I said before, if the shrink wrap property is set to the default value false, the buttons will not be displayed in the center of the screen even if the list view is made as a child of the center widget. The 3 buttons are just simple buttons that go to the corresponding page when pressed. Counter page widget is a stateful widget, and the counter value read from the counter change notifier, and the value of my counter variable declared in the widget are displayed as 2 lines in the center of the screen. And when floating action button is tapped, it calls the increment function of counter change notifier. Next is the handle dialog page widget, which displays the counter value of counter change notifier in the center of the screen, and calls the increment function of counter change notifier in floating action button. What I want to do on this page is to display a dialog in any state and display the dialog when the counter reaches a certain number. So when the state reaches a certain value, the state value is displayed, but let's see what happens when a dialog is also displayed. And it is a navigate page widget, but currently the counter value of a counter change notifier is displayed in the center of the screen like the handle dialog page widget, and the increment function of counter change notifier is called in the floating action button. In this widget, let's test what happens when the state reaches a certain value and moves to another page. In other words, what happens in the case when the state reaches a certain value. It displays the value and moves to another page at the same time. If you look at the navigate page, I didn't make a connection, but I did make a widget called other page. It is a widget that has no special function and just displays other in the center. Now that we have looked at the skeleton of the app, let's see what errors occur while testing various cases starting with the counter page widget.